The Radio Memories Network is brought to you in part by Liberated Syndication, podcast publishing made easy, libsyn.com. That's libsyn.com.
Welcome to another play in our anthology series with great actors and actresses. Now, sit back and enjoy this week's audio play.
Time now for the best in mystery. Tonight, Mystery Classic stars Ralph Richardson in The Tale. I don't know whether I've done retribution or murder. I don't know. I shall never know. Now, Joseph Conrad, The Tale, starring Ralph Richardson. Outside the large single window, the late evening light was dying out slowly. In the long room, the irresistible tide of the light had run into those distant parts of it, with a whispering of our voices, passion came to unsettled, passionate melody, and would have died away with the dying light. I could see only the thin oval of her upturned face, the pale immobility of her hands against the dark of her dress. Oh, we loved each other. Yes, but what was the hope in that love? At last, she turned her head away. Please, you can only hurt yourself going like this. You know that. Oh, my darling. Tell me something. What to tell you?
Why not tell me a tale?
A tale?
Yes, why not?
Why not?
You used to tell your pencil and professional tales very well at one time. You had a sort of art. That summer, the days before the war.
Oh, really? But now you see the war is going on.
It could be a tale not of this world.
What do you want to tell of the other, the better world? You must call back someone who's already gone there.
No, I don't mean that. I mean some other world in the universe, not in heaven.
Well, I'm relieved. But you forget that I've only 5 days leave.
Yes. And I've also taken 5 days leave from my duty.
I like that word,
What word?
duty.
It is horrible sometimes.
That's because you think it's narrow. But as to this other world, who's going to look for it? And the tale that's in it?
You.
Huh? Have you, Willie? In that world, then, there was once upon a time a naval commanding officer and a Scandinavian. It was a world of seas and continents and islands.
Like the earth.
Yes. A war was going on in that world, and many young men in it, mostly in wardrooms and messes, used to say to each other, "That war, but it's better than no war at all." That sounds flippant, doesn't it?
Yes.
Let's get back to our commanding officer, who, of course, commanded the ship, the warship. But he used to be sent out with her along certain coasts to see what he could see, just that. Sometimes he had some preliminary information to help him, and sometimes he hadn't. But in the early days of the war, the ship was sailing in northern waters, steaming along her beat in sight of a rocky, dangerous coast that stood out intensely black like an Indian ink drawing on gray paper. Well, anything to report?
No, sir. Not so much as a fishing boat. Nothing stirring on shore there. The coast absolutely deserted.
I never mind about the coast. It's the sea we're interested in. You know what used to amaze me? Was the way that the war never seemed to change. just the same expanse of water, neither more friendly nor more hostile. It's impossible to believe that that same horizon has now become one great circular ambush.
Well, it is until you see a ship blow up all of a sudden and flop under almost before you know what's happened to it.
You know, in some ways, one almost envies the soldiers. At the end...
Look, sir. Out there, ahead, on the starboard bow.
Quick, man, hard a port. It may be a mine. Ahead of the ship, something was floating and rolling lazily on the sea. Something, but what? The ship's course was altered to pass the object close. It was necessary to have a good look at it, to see what one could see, close, but without touching it. It was not advisable to come in contact with objects of any form floating carelessly about.
Small wreckage, perhaps. But there shouldn't be any wreckage here.
No. The last reported torpedoes were a long way westward. But one never knows. There may have been others that weren't reported, gone with all hands.
Yes. Seems to be a battle. Here, have a look through the glasses, sir.
Uh-huh. Yes. Pretty obvious proof of what we suspected all along. The certain neutrals round here haven't been quite so neutral as they should have been.
U-boats?
Yes. Replenishing the stores of U-boats. Somewhere not so very far off, either.
Yes, but why leave the evidence lying about like it?
Why, indeed.
Almost looks as though it had been done on purpose. But what on earth for?
More probably it was an oversight.
Well, it's proof of what we were pretty certain of before. And plain, too.
And much good it'll do us. The parties are miles away. The U-boat ready to kill. And the noble neutral sitting away to the eastward, ready with a pack of lies.
Yeah. Well, they won't have to lie very much. Fellows like that, unless caught in the act, are pretty safe.
Yeah. I suppose they can afford to chuckle. They probably don't even care a rap for the bit of evidence left behind. It's a game where practice makes you bold and successful, too.
Yes, well, perhaps this will be once too often.
The fog's coming up again. A solid white wall of it. In 5 minutes, we were in the thick of it. Great convolutions of vapor flew over, whirling about our masts and funnels. It looked as if they were beginning to melt. Then they vanished. The ship was stopped. All sound ceased. The very fog became motionless, growing denser as if solid, with amazing, dumb immobility. Men at their stations lost sight of each other. Footsteps sounded closely. Rare voices, impersonal and remote, died away without resonance. A blind, white stillness took possession of the world.
Well, what do we do now? Here, wait a minute. The fog's lifting.
Only in patches. Look, there's the shoreline again. Ah, that's a bit better.
38
Right. Now I know where I am again. We're going inshore.
Yes, but
It's all right. I know the stretch of coast like the back of my hand. That peak there is the southern shore of a fjord. We're going to ease round into it and sit tight till the weather mends. There's plenty of sea room and we can drop anchor. Keep the legsmen stinging out. Slowly, with infinite caution and patience, they crept in closer and closer, seeing no more of the cliff than the effervescent dark loom with a narrow border of angry foam at its foot. At the moment of anchoring, the fog was so thick, all they could see they might have been 1,000 miles out in the open sea. Yet the shelter of the land could be felt. There was a peculiar quality in the stillness of the air, very faint, very elusive. The wash of the ripple against the encircling land reached their ears with mysterious, sudden pause. Well, that's that. There's about half a mile between us and the other side of the fjord. We can stay here till the fog lifts and get a chance to see what we're doing again.
Well, it seems to be lifting already, sir. Back there, towards the open sea.
I drove it down. Quite a bright patch.
Here, wait a minute. What's that?
Give me the glasses. I could almost swear. Well, you'd be right then. There's another ship out there, lying at anchor. But hang it, it's a wonder we didn't run slap into her when we came in. Hey, it certainly is. But why didn't she make herself known, rung her bell? She must have heard us coming in. We came in pretty quietly, admittedly, but they must have heard our leadsman at least. We couldn't have passed them more than 50 yards off. Quite. What you might call a close shave. We never heard a sound from her. Fellows on board must have been holding their breath. I rather think that's what they were doing. But we'd better take a look at them, sir. I think we better have. At first, I supposed she was just a coaster standing to. I'm not so sure the more I think about it. In fact, I'm not at all sure. Laura Bolton sent a boarding party across to her. I want to know a little more about that ship. All right, sir? The boat was lowered and moved away into the fog. The white swirl of vapor that lay on the water followed it up as though it had been sunk. Only the shadowy outline of the mystery ship remained afloat above the drifting brightness. For a quarter of an hour there was utter silence, and then the boarding party returned, appearing suddenly alongside. The officer in charge came up to make his report. Well, what is she, a coaster?
No, sir, a stranger, a neutral.
No, really? Well, tell us a little bit more about her then. What's she doing here, anyway?
Well, they said it had engine trouble, sir. They stood in here to keep out of the weather.
Did they? Well, how did they get in here if they had engine trouble?
I asked them that, sir. They said they were drifting about in the fog for 3 days, and the wind got up, and they simply ran before it when they saw where it was taking.
What about the ship's papers?
Our papers in perfect order, sir. I checked them carefully. She sailed from Gothenburg last Monday, 8 days ago, with a cargo from Newcastle. General merchandise, all checking with the manifest. From what I could see of her, sir, she's quite in the clear.
She is, eh?
Well, the master said he didn't know where they were, said they'd been drifting back so long in the fog, he didn't have any good idea of his position. He asked me for a bearing, but I didn't give him one till I'd checked with you, sir.
Good. Just one thing. What about her engines now? Are they still disabled?
No, sir, she has steam on them.
Oh, she is. Number one, you know, I think you were right after all. They were holding their breath as we passed them. They certainly were. I tell you, number one, I don't like it. I don't like it one little bit. Somewhere around here, we know very well a German U-boat has been restocked, probably by a neutral vessel. Here in this fjord, we find a neutral vessel hiding away in the fog. But her story was perfectly plausible, sir. Yes, it was a bit too plausible to my mind. What did you make of the crew, Johnson?
Oh, the usual lot, sir. The engineers, quite typical, I should say. Very full of the way they repaired their engines. The mate a bit sturdy, perhaps. Not much English. The master, rather an impressive sort of a fellow in his way. Typically Scandinavian. Civil enough, but appeared to have been drinking. Seemed to be recovering from a regular bout of it.
Oh, he did, eh? What instructions did you give him?
Well, I told him I couldn't give him permission to proceed, sir. He said he wouldn't dare to move his ship her own length out in a fog like this. Permission or no permission. I left the man on board all the same.
Quite right. Well, keep an eye on her as much as you can with all this fog about, and keep your ears open.
Aye, sir.
I don't know. Maybe I'm a bit too suspicious, but I can't help feeling that this very plausible ship may very well have been the one that had a rendezvous with that U-boat out there. But you could never prove it, sir. Well, I don't know. I want to have a look at it myself. But from the report we've had, I'm afraid you couldn't even make a case for reasonable suspicion, sir. Could you? I'll go on board all the same. Muster another boarding party. All right, sir. What did I expect to find? Well, I couldn't have told anybody, not even myself. I went aboard. The master, large, robust Scandinavian, led the way to the chart room.
It's not very comfortable, but while I am at sea, this is where I live.
Aha.
Oh, take a seat, please. What can I do for you?
Oh, it's nothing. It's merely a routine check. Your papers appear to be in order.
Oh, of course. If it had not been for trouble with the engines, we would have been in England, in Newcastle.
Instead of which?
So we are here.
Aha.
No, what I mean is, I don't know where we are. We leave Göteborg last Monday, last week. On Tuesday, I am somewhere south of here, and my engines break down. We drift in the fog, I don't know where, and then the wind gets up and we put in here. Since then, there has been nothing but fog again.
Aha. So you've been anchored here all that time?
Yeah, that's right, 4 days. So isn't it enough to drive a man out of his mind? Well, and it's like this. This ship is my own. Your officer has seen the papers. She isn't much, as you can see for yourself. Just an old cargo boat. Just a bare living for my family. Those are their pictures up there.
Yes, you'll be making a fortune for your family with this old ship before you finish.
Please.
I mean, out of the war.
Ah, yes. Out of the war. Well, but of that, you wouldn't be angry about it, would you? Oh, you are too much of a gentleman. We didn't bring this war on you.
No, I suppose you didn't.
Well, and suppose we sat down and cried. What good would that be? Well, let those cry who made all the trouble. Well, time is money, you say in English. Well, this time is money. Oh, yes, it is money, all right.
Well, I'm glad you're satisfied. Well, I suppose you've made it perfectly clear that the war is not your fault and why you're here. Your logbook confirms that very minutely. Of course, a logbook may be cooked.
Please.
I say a logbook may be cooked, faked, used as an alibi. Nothing easier.
Oh. But you can't suspect me of anything. My cargo is made out for an English port in Newcastle.
True.
Well, then how can you suspect me? And what is it you suspect me of doing?
Well, I haven't said that I do suspect you. What makes you think I might?
But what you said about the logbook.
Well, I find you lying here with steam up, hiding in the fog.
But my engines have been repaired, so at last I can get steam up again.
Why didn't you make yourself known when you heard us coming into the field?
I was in this chat room. I hear nothing at all.
I wondered what he'd do if I accused him to his face of being what I suspected he was. I turned away in disgust and went up on the deck, but I had the crew mustered formally for an inspection. You the chief engineer?
Yeah.
What's been the trouble with your engines?
Please?
Your engines broke down, didn't they?
Oh, yeah. The main... how you say? The main feed became loose. And the steam was not right in the cylinder. Also, the condenser chamber was wrong.
When was this?
A week ago, last Tuesday.
Uh-huh. You the mate?
Yeah.
Let me see your papers.
No, here.
Where did you join the ship?
Göteborg?
When?
3 months ago.
This is your first trip to Hull?
We are not bound for Hull. We are bound for Newcastle.
I could discover no flaw in the logbook, Torres. At last I returned to the chart room. The master still lingered there. He appeared to have been drinking while I was away on deck.
Sit down, please.
I dare say you're wondering of my proceedings, though I'm not detaining you, am I? I mean, you wouldn't care to move in this fog?
I don't know where I am.
Earlier today, I saw something out there that makes me suspect that not so very long since a U-boat was contacted and restocked. Perhaps by a neutral vessel.
Oh, I see. But you only suspect that. You have no proof.
No, well, perhaps not. But I also have my information. That's why I happen to be here at all. Shooting's too good for people that concede neutrality in that sort of manner.
Oh, yes, perhaps.
No, there's no perhaps about it.
No, you are right. But what about the tempters? We better kill off that lot. Have you ever seen a poor man on one side and a bag of gold on the other? Oh, of course, I couldn't be tempted. I haven't nerves for it. Oh, I tell you, it is nothing to me. I just talk openly for once.
Yes, I'm listening to you.
Well, now that I know you have no suspicions, I talk. You don't know what a poor man is. I do. I'm poor myself. This old ship isn't much, and she's mortgaged to bear living no more. Well, of course, I wouldn't have the nerve, but a man who has the nerve, the stuff he takes aboard looks like other cargo packages, barrels, tins, copper tubes, whatnot. He doesn't see it working. It isn't real to him, but he sees the gold. That's real. Oh, of course, nothing would induce me. I suffer from an internal disease. I would go crazy with anxiety or take to drink or something. No, the risk is so great, it would be ruin.
It will be death.
Well, then it is nothing to me. I am not one of those.
No, of course not. Well, I'm going to carry you fellows off this coast at once, all of you. Now, begin with you. You must leave in half an hour.
What, leaving this fog?
Yes, you'll have to go in this fog.
But I don't know where I am. I tell you, 3 days I drifted lost in the fog.
Uh-huh. You do know how to get out, don't you? Well, I'm giving you your course. You steer south by east, half east, for about 4 miles, then you'll be clear to hold to the westward for your port. The weather will clear up before very long.
But please, in weather like this, I tell you, I haven't the nerve to do it.
I'm ordering you to do it. Unless you want me.
No, I tell you, I have had enough of this. Bored.
Yeah. You'll leave within the next half hour. You've steamed, and I've given you your course.
But please, I do not know where I am.
I've given you your course.
Very well, sir. I have no choice.
I returned to my ship, leaving the master standing there as if he were rooted to the deck. Within the next 10 minutes, I heard their anchor being weighed. Then, shadowy in the fog, she steamed away out of the fjord, on to her given course. Well, my dear, that's the end of the tale.
In fact, you let him go.
Now listen. That course would lead the ship straight onto the rocks beyond the mouth of the fjord. He steamed out, he ran into them, and went down. So, he had spoken the truth. He did not know where he was.
But surely...
I proved nothing. Nothing either way. It may have been the only truth in all the story. Yes. He seems to have been driven out by a menacing stare. Nothing more.
And you knew?
Oh, yes, I gave that course to him. It seemed to me the supreme test. I believe... No, I don't believe. I don't know. At the time, I was certain. They all went down. I don't know whether I've done stern retribution or murder. I don't know. I shall never know.
Oh, my poor...
I shall never know.